Hello, everybody. It's your friend Dan, and welcome to episode 6 of 613 Creatives. Today I have with me a self-taught, Ottawa-born filmmaker who has produced a large number of feel-good and poignant shorts during his career. From heartfelt comedies and dramas to bone-chilling psychological horror, this auteur's works often have a strong message in mind. You'll always find him with a camera in one hand and the pulse of society in the other. Please welcome to the show, Shawn McElroy. Hey, Shawn, how's it going, man?
Going good. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm doing all right, thanks. People in the audience may not know, you and I have been kind of acquaintances through Kino. And for all those who may not be aware, if you're an Eastern Ontario filmmaker, I highly recommend that you look it up and check it out. That's Kino, Kino, Ottawa. It's a great way to connect with regional talent and get involved in the local film community. Very supportive group. Check it out. When I asked you to be part of the show, you filled me in on a lot of the stuff that you've produced and been involved in and created, and you've got quite the resume. Again, I'm taking you've been at this for quite a while.
I've been at this for a little over a year now.
And you've produced all those shorts in just a year.
Well, yes, I try to make one per month.
Okay.
Sometimes I miss that deadline, but I try to create something monthly as much as I can. But it can be very stressful, and it can burn you out after a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you gave me a list of stuff that you've done, and I just assumed it was over like a long period of time. But that's amazing that you've been able to create such a what not only just like a large number of shorts and creative works, but such poignant stuff, such powerful stuff. So having said that, let's talk about the first couple of shorts that you did. You mentioned to me they were The Habit and Lost in Addiction. Now, in the descriptions that you gave me, what I gathered was they were very different kinds of films. Very, they couldn't be more different. Tell us a bit about that, about your first jump into this stuff.
Well, The Habit was really more of a short comedy skit with my cat, Nugget, the namesake of my production company, where I was having a discussion with him, a heart-to-heart discussion about this habit that he has. And I actually animated his mouth so that he would be talking back to me.
Oh, cool.
And provided a voice for him. And that was just something I put together real quick after I joined Kino. I went to one festival and I saw the shorts and I was like, you know what? I've got an idea. I'm gonna try doing something. So I just put that together real quick. I hardly ever count it as one of my shorts because it was done so quickly, and just to me it's just kind of like a short comedy skit. The next one, Lost in Addiction, that was a huge production with a lot of hiccups because it was my first time making such a, it's 14 minutes long. It's a psychological thriller about addiction where basically I give addiction a personification. It's like a demon, a demonic entity that forces you to do the things that, you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And it's to show how addiction can have such a hold on you that you feel powerless. You feel like there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Well, yeah, definitely very different, a huge contrast in subject matter for sure. That's powerful stuff, man. Tackling something so big and powerful like that right out of the gate. That's takes the work of a brave filmmaker.
I do enjoy taking risks, and I do enjoy pushing buttons. One of my things.
That's awesome. That's exactly what you need to do to get noticed and get out there, right? Is take risks.
Yeah.
And shake people up. That's awesome. I'd like to dive a little bit further into some of the other stuff you've done. You mentioned, and correct me if I'm getting the pronunciation of this wrong, Rubi Alec? Is that
You
right?
got it. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Okay, Rubi Alec. It's a film about missing time and abduction. What made you decide to do something on to tackle that subject?
So growing up, a lot of kids, they watch the Care Bears and things like that. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries. Um, and
Robert Stack.
yes, a legend. There was this one episode about missing time that really stuck with me. And basically the phenomenon is you're doing something throughout your day, and let's say it's 3 o'clock. You check the clock, it's 3 o'clock. And then you go on your day with your day, and then all of a sudden it's 10. Like, what happened? Like, how did we, and you just can't recall what happened between 3 and 10. Right. And in that episode, basically it was a group of painters that saw mysterious lights in the sky before the episode of Missing Time. And then when they came to, they saw the lights going away. So I was like, okay, so this seems to be like an alien abduction type scenario. So I wanted to make a short about missing time and suggest that maybe an alien abduction took place. But if you watch, anyway, I'm not going to spoil it, but
yeah,
it's a whole other thing other than alien, even though there is the theme of aliens. But you'd have to watch to get it. But so yeah, basically it was Unsolved Mysteries that inspired me.
If anyone from our generation who's a filmmaker, I think a lot of inspiration came from, those late night shows. Like for you, it was like Unsolved Mysteries. For me, it was the 80s Twilight Zone.
Ah, yes.
Yes, the 80s Twilight Zone. I mean, the 50s one is great, sure, of course, props to Rod Sterling. But something about the 80s one was just so creepy and just really stuck with me. For me personally, it was definitely a big inspiration. So. Yeah,
that's people of our generation would consider the 80s the era of horror. So
yeah,
horror kind of like reached its peak in popularity.
Oh yeah, like with the slashers and
Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of which, another one of the horror films that you created, again, correct me if I'm mispronouncing this, Anathema. Anathema, right. That was another one that you did. Tell us a bit about that. Like, I mean, you've already sort of kind of gone over your influences. I mean, if you want to sort of fill us in a bit more about maybe, what influenced that specifically. But yeah, tell us a bit more about Anathema.
Well, I mean, it's basically the classic idea of the monster under the bed or, the monster in the closet kind of thing. So I wanted to do something that played on a child's imagination of something living in the closet. But I wanted to add a little extra element to it. And that element is that the father is aware of the creature in the closet and is feeding sacrifices to it.
Oh, cool.
In order to spare the life of his daughter so that the monster won't target his daughter.
Okay.
So basically, he's kind of a villain, I guess you could say, but you can sympathize with him because he's doing it so that his daughter doesn't get eaten.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
There you go. See, yeah, exactly. My films tend to have a lot of flawed characters and very little happy endings. I don't know why. It's just the way I write things. I don't like having happy endings. I don't like when everything is like wrapped up in a neat little bow. It's.
Some of the speaking of horror films, like some of my favorite films are the ones with the downer endings, like Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a super downer ending. And even like the director's cut of Army of Darkness, right? It's a super downer, Empire Strikes Back, super downer ending, but I mean, it sticks with you, it's like, oh my God, and it fits. Like, it's not like, oh, that's the ending sucked. No, it fits the subject matter. So, and speaking of some of the other films that you've done, it's along that same line. You mentioned The Main Ingredient and The Art of Cruelty. Very, very powerful subject matter, and you mentioned that they're connected to each other, and it sets up a series. Tell us more about this. Like, fill us in. Like, you said it's setting up a series that's shooting next year. Tell us about those and how we can see all this stuff.
Well, the series is actually what's called The Art of Cruelty.
Okay.
the main ingredient is kind of the epilogue to the Art of Cruelty, as in it takes place after the series. The series is going to be what happened prior to that.
Okay.
And it's basically about a man's descent into becoming a prolific serial killer.
Okay.
So basically, everything that happened in his life, socially, and all the mental health issues he's dealing with that lead him down that dark path. The series will not have any actual murders. It'll simply be focused on his decline. And the way you'll be able to watch it is on my channel, Nugget Pictures on YouTube.
You're definitely putting the psychological and psychological horror. I know a lot of filmmakers, they just kind of, they just focus on this maybe the jump scares and things like that. But
Yeah.
you're really you're really diving into the mind.
Yeah, jump scares. I mean, it has its applications, but
Mm-hmm.
and for the most part, I find it kind of lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It
I
can't be used
prefer
as
to
a
get
crutch.
into someone's head than to just make them jump out of their seat. I don't know. It's just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has its place, but yeah, it can't
Yeah,
be. It can't
it
be a
does.
crutch. You can't rely on it. So you always seem to have a strong message behind your works. I picked up on that when you were describing your shorts. Take us through, like, what's your typical process from conception to completion? Like, where are these strong messages? How do they evolve? How do they come about? Why do you want to put them out there?
Most of the time, what is written first is actually the message I want to get across. And then I kind of write around that.
Okay.
But I never want to do it in a way that's preaching to the audience, or that's, trying to say, I don't know, if you don't believe this, you're lower or anything like that. It's just,
Not being judgmental.
yeah, exactly. Not being judgmental. It's basically just challenging people's preconceived notions and concepts, ideas, things that they've been taught, things that convictions they hold, without necessarily trying to change them.
You mentioned at the beginning that you're all about, how did you put it? Not necessarily making people uncomfortable, but sort of,
Well, I do
yeah.
enjoy that too.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's fair then. Yeah, it's good to not be judgmental. That can certainly turn an audience off.
Yes.
But yeah, getting in their face and making them a little uncomfortable, making them think. I mean, that's why we do this, right?
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit. You mentioned also that you were a background actor on a feature recently, and how's that influenced your craft and what you do?
I'm self-taught. I did not go to school. I took the Tarantino approach. I dove in head first and just started doing things. I learned by doing. That's how I learned. That's how I've always learned.
Mhm.
So I was terrible at school, as you can imagine.
I could relate.
Yeah, because you don't learn from doing at school. You learn from
Yeah.
watching and reading and just,
Yeah.
yeah. Basically, it just added knowledge to my arsenal. Certain terminologies that are used.
I'm the same way. Like, I learned by doing. I did
Yeah.
go to film school, but it was a long time ago, and stuff's changed so much that I've had to, relearn things anyway. But there's nothing that compares to real life and actually doing it. There's theory and there's practice, right? And I'm the same way. It's the practice where I learn. It's not the theory. It's not sure, there's a lot of successful filmmakers that haven't, that never went to film school. But I wouldn't dissuade people to actually going to film school, because there is a
not
lot
at all.
of,
If you can afford it, go for it.
yeah, there's a lot of valuable information to be taken in there for sure.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Everything helps, right? I mean, we
Yes.
need all the help we can get in this business.
Exactly. Actually, the first, what I consider the first short I ever did, Lost in Addiction, I learned so much from that one experience. A lot of things went wrong, and I learned what to avoid, and what steps to take to correct certain things.
We talked about your horror films and that sort of thing. Let's talk about some of your more sort of lighthearted works. You mentioned that you did some comedies that did better than you thought they would,
Yeah,
considering the social climate. And why is that?
my comedies tend to really push the envelope when it comes to what's acceptable. I try not to go too far yet. I want to kind of ease my way into becoming more and more provocative, I guess you could say.
Right.
But yeah, already I've gotten some pretty strong reactions to my comedies.
Okay.
It has caused offense to certain people, which is not my intention, but or is it? But
You're not offending
but
somebody. I mean, maybe
I
you
mean
should
that
be offending a few people.
it's it's comedy is the last bastion of free speech, and
Mm-hmm.
if you take it to its roots, the court jesters were making fun of the king and the queen and things like that, and
Exactly.
challenging authority and such things. So I mean, it's really I'm just kind of continuing that tradition
Mm-hmm.
of basically making fun of anything and anyone and not caring what anyone thinks. But I do have certain boundaries.
Yeah. When I was in film school, we took art history, and you're absolutely right. The beginnings of acting were in medieval times, the British, the old world that basically invented it, and yeah, that's how the comedy came about, right? It was being provocative. And I mean, if you look at like the comedies of today, it's like what are the ones that really stand out? Like, stuff by the Farrelly brothers, and people were, there's so many people that are up in arms over what the Farrell, some of the stuff that I mean, it might seem a little tame now because I think a lot of what they did was maybe in the 90s and 2000s,
Yeah.
but at the time, I mean, like, Ben Stiller with and Cameron Diaz
Hair
with
gel.
semen in the hair. Like at the time, it was just like, oh my God, what are you doing? And so many people were just like, like why would you ever do that? And I'm sure they get plenty of hate mail, but they don't
Oh,
care. I mean, they got famous off that. They got, it got people's attention. And I mean, sometimes that's the price you pay to be get heard and get noticed. Is a few people have got to get ticked off. Well, sorry. I mean, this is my sense of humor. This is free speech.
it's
Sorry. I
actually,
mean, sorry, not sorry.
yeah, I mean, it actually doesn't really bother me at all.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really care. I'm one of those people who don't really care what people think of me,
Fantastic.
as long as they don't blacklist me or,
Yeah.
or cancel me. But
Yeah.
no, I don't, it doesn't, I don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah. I would say, stay on that track, keep pushing the envelope and keep being provocative and yeah, don't be afraid to, tick people off. I think you might be surprised at how how far you can go because I mean for as many people that may get a little miffed, there's going to be an equal amount of people that are like, "Well, this is awesome. This is, let's, make a movie for us."
Well, if anything, it's different because everyone is so restrained these days and so
Mm-hmm.
careful not to offend anyone
Mm-hmm.
that you have someone coming out and going, I don't care who I offend. It's
Mm-hmm.
new, it's different, kind of.
Yeah.
At this time, there was a time where it wasn't new, but now it's new.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's new
it's
again.
yeah, it's new again. Exactly. It's kind of funny if you look back at the history, like you said, like like we were talking earlier, how the '80s were, it was the boom of horror, and then the '90s seemed to be like when political correctness reared its head. And it seems like
Started.
we've
It wasn't as bad as it is today, but it started
yeah,
kind of.
that's when it was starting. Yeah, I really appreciate you rebelling against that because I mean, do we need to be provoked? Speaking of comedies, tell us a bit about your first comedy, One Last Game.
That one was pretty much improvised with my collaborator Jesse DeLorean. He's brilliant. He's I've been collaborating with him ever since that short was made. Basically, it's two idiots, a duo of idiots like Beavis and Butthead or Wayne and Garth, or along those lines, who had a group of friends that had this ongoing Russian roulette game in the past, and then they reunite, and they reunite for one last game, which I mean, it would be the last game because there's only two left. Uh,
Right.
I think it was just kind of my way of trying to get people to laugh at someone shooting himself in the head.
Okay. Wow.
But no, a lot of the dialogue was improvised, and I got a lot of compliments about the comedic timing and the writing, which there was none. There was no
Really?
writing on that one.
Oh,
It was
wow.
pretty much just me and Jesse acting like we're drunk, saying random stuff, and then playing a game of Russian roulette, and one of us, bites the dust. But that was pretty much it.
Oh,
And
wow.
a lot of people found it hilarious. So
It's like the improvised version of the Deer Hunter.
yes,
The comedic version of the Deer Hunter, if there can be such a thing.
yeah.
You achieve the impossible. You turn Deer Hunter into a comedy. Which one of you? Oh, so I guess was it? Oh well, I guess don't spoil it. But I guess one of you was Christopher Walken.
Well, there were two endings on my channel. If you
Oh,
watch it, there's one ending and then there's an alternate ending.
oh, okay.
So really, both of us bite the dust.
Oh, both of you. So you're both Christopher Walken
Yeah,
at some point.
depending on
Oh.
the ending you watch.
You filled me in on one of your other shorts, The Healing Begins, and how that was kind of an exercise in challenging yourself. Tell us a bit about that. How are you challenging yourself? How do
Uh,
you challenge yourself?
so that was me challenging myself because I myself am a pessimistic, nihilistic atheist. I wanted to make something that was completely the opposite of that. So I made a Christian film with an uplifting message. It's the only one that has an happy ending in all of that I've created. The
Oh,
only thing
well,
that
the only
happy,
one.
yeah.
Okay.
And it was a challenge because I had to think as a Christian does, which I was at one point. So
Hmm.
that wasn't so hard, but it was hard for me to end it with a positive conclusion. It was, yeah, in a way it was kind of a bitch to make because I was constantly second guessing myself and going, but should I make something horrible happen to the character? No. Okay, I'll let it be.
It's always your
You
first
know,
instinct.
so basically, it's a homeless woman who ran away from home because her mom doesn't approve of her sexual orientation, let's say, and she's homeless. She feels like she's being ignored. A kind man approaches her and encourages her to turn her life around. And well, I feel like I've said too much about it already. So if you want to find out the
Yeah.
rest,
Yeah.
go watch it on my channel. But
That's what all of us have to do as filmmakers, right? We got to challenge ourselves, push that envelope, tackle the difficult subjects. That's awesome.
yeah, it was basically it was about finding hope, and actually the main character is named Hope. So
Oh, hey, there you go. Perfect.
yeah, it was
Wow.
about finding hope, it's a theme you probably will never see again in any of my films.
You got your signature. You got your style down. So, having said that, what's in the future for you? What you got in the works coming up?
Well, there's the Art of Cruelty, obviously the series that continues, not continues, but
Mm-hmm.
shows what took place before the main ingredient. And also, I have a short called Out, which tackles racial issues. That should be
right on.
interesting.
Right on.
That's pretty much all I have, let's say, circa late 2024 to mid 2025. I do have other projects planned for later in 2025.
Awesome.
A series based on a popular video game franchise. I won't say any more than that, but yeah.
Not the Legend of Zelda, is it?
Oh God, no. Oh, I wish. I wish I had the budget to pull that off.
I've heard rumors. I don't know if you've heard the same, that they're talking about doing a live action Legend of Zelda with Zendaya and
Oh, as Zelda.
Zelda, yeah, but starring Zendaya's in it and Tom Holland. Surprise, surprise.
That's funny.
So yeah, we'll see if that's true. Anyway, yeah, he might not make a bad link. Thanks so much, Shawn, for sharing your story. So check out Shawn's stuff. I've seen his stuff at Kino and online. Look up Nugget Pictures and get a hold of this guy if you want to collaborate. He makes some very powerful stuff. Also, to our listeners out there, thank you for joining us, and please give us some feedback as to the things that you want to hear in future episodes. Please check out our other episodes. We've got a wide variety of filmmakers and actors, and more to come. Obviously, there's a large amount of filmmaking talent in Eastern Ontario. You know any filmmakers, any actors, please share this podcast with them. They may very well find somebody that they can connect with and collaborate with and maybe learn something. I want to thank my audience for all their support thus far. Please keep listening. And, of course, thank you so much, Shawn. Thanks again for filling us in on your works. I predict good things for you in the future. You seem to be on a solid track. Keep pushing people's buttons.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again. All right, and thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And this was 613 Creatives, and we will see you next time.